Hi, I am Sergio, and welcome to Animo Teach. Are you ready for today's lesson? In this video, I am going to teach you about ethics in research. Sounds interesting to you? Let's dive into it. Hello, my dear students. For this video, I am going to discuss about ethics in research. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to be more aware of ethical dimensions of research, appreciate the importance of ethics in research, and accept that pursuit of societal good and respect for research participants or samples are essential for ethical research. How much freedom can researchers exercise in the pursuit of knowledge for society's benefit if they expose human participants, plants, and or animal samples to research harm or risks? According to World Health Organization, it is important to adhere to ethical principles in order to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of research participants and plants or animal samples. As such, all research involving human beings and other living organisms should be reviewed by an ethics committee to ensure that the appropriate ethical standards are being upheld. What is ethics? It is the justification and practice of what is morally good, long or healthy life, and bad, pain or sickness. It is the justification of theory, principles, human rights, and social cultural values. It is also concerned about the nature of ultimate human value, also valuable life, and the standards by which human actions can be judged right or wrong. At the heart of ethics is a concern about something or someone other than ourselves and our own desires and self interest. Ethics is concerned with other people's interests, with the interests of society, with God's interests, with ultimate goods, and so on. So when a person thinks ethically, they are giving at least some thought to something beyond themselves. All right, so what is research ethics? It is the ethics of the planning, conduct, and reporting of research. It is basically the application of fundamental ethical principles to research that composed of diverse set of values, norms, and institutional regulations that help constitute and regulate research activity. Research ethics should include protections of human and animal subjects. However, not all researchers use human or animal subjects, nor are the ethical dimensions of research confined solely to protections for research subjects. Participants normally get to understand the research objectives and procedures through the informed consent process. The informed consent process requires communicating relevant information about the study to the participant before he or she decides to participate. Other ethical challenges are rooted in many dimensions of research, including the collection, use, and interpretation of research data. When specimens are collected for research purposes, either specific informed consent for a particular use or broad informed consent for unspecified future use must be obtained from the person from whom the material originally is obtained. Next, methods for reporting and reviewing research plans or findings. The purpose of the study, the design, the population, The methods of data collection and the planned analysis shall be clearly described. All procedures, whether invasive or not, shall be satisfactorily described in detail. The research protocol shall adequately address the elements of research ethics as part of the ethical consideration section. Others are relationships among researchers with one another, relationships between researchers and those that will be affected by their research, means for responding to misunderstandings, disputes, or misconduct, and options for promoting ethical conduct in research. Please take note that it works when and only when it is applied before the research is conducted. Elements of research ethics. The first one is social value, improve people's health and well-being. The participation of human beings in research can only be justified if the study has social value. Social value refers to the relevance of the study to an existing social or health problem such that the results are expected to bring about a better understanding of related issues or contribute to the promotion of well-being of individuals, their families, and communities. Second is informed consent, free and informed involvement of participants in decision-making. For all research involving humans, the researchers shall obtain the voluntary informed consent of the prospective research participant. Obtaining informed consent is a process that is begun when initial contact is made with a potential participant and continues throughout the course of the study. By informing the potential participants by repetition and explanation, by answering their questions as they arise, by ensuring that they understand each procedure, and by obtaining agreement from them, researchers elicit their informed consent and in so doing manifest respect for their dignity and autonomy. Third is vulnerability of participants, protection for those with potentially diminished capabilities. Vulnerable participants shall require special protection because of certain characteristics of situations that render them as such. So who are the vulnerable participants? Vulnerable participants are those who are relatively and absolutely incapable of deciding for themselves whether or not to participate in a study for reasons such as physical and mental disabilities, poverty, asymmetric power relations, and marginalization, among others, and who are at greater risk for some harms. Fourth is risks, benefits, and safety. Careful assessment of risks, burdens, and benefits. All research involving human participants shall be preceded by a careful assessment of predictable risks, burdens, and foreseeable benefits to the research participants or to others. Every precaution shall be taken to minimize the negative impact of the study on the research participants' well-being. Next is the privacy and confidentiality of information. Observing transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality in the use of information. Researchers shall adhere to the principles of transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality in the collection, retention, and processing of information. This is based on the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Researchers must respect participants' right to privacy unless required by law. The confidentiality of information shall at times be observed. Records that link individuals to specific information shall not be released. This requirement shall be included in the informed consent form as well. The next one is justice, equitable distribution of risks and benefits, just compensation for harm. In research involving human participants, the principle of justice refers primarily to distributive justice, which requires the equitable distribution of both the burdens and the benefits of participation in research. That is, it should not be the case that one group in society bears the costs of research while another group reaps its benefits. Research should not worsen existing health and social inequities. Next is transparency, openness about aspects of study that may affect participants or their decision to give or withhold consent. Researchers must be transparent about aspects of a study that may have an impact on the rights, health, and safety of participants, or in respect to information that may have a bearing on the decision of participants to give or withhold their informed consent. Ethics when in research. Before it is being conducted, you have to consider justice, fair selection of participants, conflict of interest, the research design, and benefit or harm balance, ethical review. Here are the codes and policies for research ethics. Number one is justice. Avoid discrimination in participants' selection and distribute benefits and risks of research fairly. Second is legality. As a researcher, you have to know and obey relevant laws and institutional and governmental policies. The third one is social responsibility. You have to strive to promote social good, prevent harm to society and environment while conducting research, whether it's descriptive or experimental. During the study, you have to consider three things: autonomy, privacy, and confidentiality, and integrity. Autonomy means obtaining informed consents. Privacy and confidentiality protect rights and avoid misuse. Integrity means adequate use of appropriate methods. There are 9 codes and policies for research ethics during the conduct of study. The first one is objectivity. You have to avoid bias in descriptive or experimental design and data analysis, and disclose personal interests that may affect the results of research. Second is carefulness. You have to avoid errors and negligence and keep good records of research activities and correspondence. The third one is honesty. Do not fabricate, falsify, or misrepresent data. Do not deceive colleagues, granting agencies, or public. The fourth one is autonomy. You have to secure actual permission of the participant, obtain informed consent with signature or signed documents. The next one is confidentiality. You have to protect participants' rights, privacy, and sensitivities, and also protect communications and patients' or respondents' records. The next one is respect. You have to treat participants and colleagues fairly, minimize harms and risks, and maximize benefits, and take special precautions with vulnerable populations. You also have to show proper care for animals, plant or animal samples when using them, especially during experiment. The next one is openness. Share your ideas, results, tools, and resources. Be open for criticisms and suggestions of experts. The eighth one is competence. Maintain and improve your expertise. Ensure adequate use of appropriate methods. And the last one is responsibility. You have to help to educate yourself as a researcher. You have to listen to your mentor and advisors. And as a researcher, you also have to promote welfare and allow yourself to make decisions. After the study or the research, you have to consider three things: transparency, bare methodologies and funding sources, integrity, reporting the results, and of course, publication ethics. There are three codes and policies for research ethics after the, the study. The first one is transparency. It is to ensure honesty and clarity in reporting the results of the study, and to disclose financial interest that may affect research. The second one is integrity. You have to keep your promises and agreements, with the participants or laboratory personnel. Act with sincerity and strive for consistency of action. And the third one is publication ethics. Never commit scientific misconduct. And you have to safeguard publication ethics. Speaking of research conduct, it is defined as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research or in reporting research results. When you say fabrication, it is making up data or results and recording or reporting them. When you say falsification, it is the manipulation of research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results. And the third one is plagiarism. It is the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. Minimally, for something to count as research misconduct, it must be committed intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly. And there must be a significant departure from accepted practices of the relevant research community. Not all instances of misbehavior or questionable conduct are covered under these policies, but for those practices that are covered, there are explicit steps that must be taken in the event of an allegation of misconduct. Research misconduct does not include honest error or differences of opinion. Research misconduct includes the destruction of, absence of, or accused person's failure to provide research records accurately documenting the questioned research. Good practices minimize the risk of misconduct. For example, strict adherence to the scientific method or to the research method. Clear, detailed record keeping, meaningful and clear delineation of collaboration, shared understanding of authorship roles and responsibilities, attentive mentoring for newer members of the research environment, and encouragement and support for asking questions and open discussion. And here are my references. International Ethical Guidelines for Health-Related Research Involving Humans, Ethical Principles and Guidelines for Filipino Scientists, National Ethical Guidelines for Health-Related Research, and Resources for Research Ethics Education. Thank you for listening.